Hi, my name is Jeff, and I'm a licensed occupational therapist practicing in America. In this second video of the Caregiver Education series, I'll be talking about preparation, preparing for basically the patient, I'm going to call them. It could be your friend, your loved one, your neighbor. I'll call them your patient, the patient, for them to come home. So, what should you be doing while anticipating or preparing? That's assuming you do have enough time. At the end of the day, you're going to have some amount of time to prepare. Obviously, the earlier, the better. But here are some things that are the top 6 that I think are the most important to talk about in preparation for bringing the patient home. Number 1, I think is, well, even before I get into that, the obvious ones is obviously clean up the mess, right? So if you have if you just got your house clean, if you have no clutter, nothing to worry about, then you could probably skip ahead. But if your place has a lot of things on the ground, trip hazards like cords, just stuff everywhere like Amazon boxes. This is what my living room looks like, by the way. Then, yeah, just common sense, obviously, just to clean those things up the best you can. Now, I'm not saying to clean like every single room that you have in your house, like your office or like the closet, just the rooms that the patient will stay in the most. And this is going to be the bedroom. They're going to go through the hallways and the bathroom. They may or may not be cooking, so the kitchen, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Living room, yeah, it's nice too. Just a good place for them to hang out so that they're not just in the room all the day. The top 2 are the room that they're going to stay in and the bathroom and also the hallways. So point number 1 is considering, and if you don't know, is the type of mobility that the patient is going to be like functioning at. So 1, are they walking? 2, are they walking but they're using like a walker? Are they using like a cane? Or they're using something else, maybe crutches? Or 3, are they using a wheelchair? Technically there's a 4th one. They may be like bed confined or bed bound, and that may require, say, basically them to be transported via like ambulance and like emergency medical services, like EMTs, in which they basically are bed confined. That's also one thing that you should be considering, right? And asking the hospital and the team is what kind of mobility will they be at, or how will they be moving around? Because that really dictates how you may prepare your environment. If they're walking, then you probably have the space that's already fit for walking because you're walking. But if they're walking and they're using something like a cane or something, that means they may need to hold on to something, right? So that may mean that you may want to have some grab bars or handrails installed in your environment, like when you go in and out. If they're using a wheelchair, then obviously they may need to have like a ramp installed for your place. So it may even be a temporary ramp. Obviously, it doesn't have to be permanent. So you want to look into that. And if you're pretty handy, then you may want to like ask the team kind of like what they would recommend, and you may be able to do it yourself. But there are basically recommendations for like how to build it. Just like how there are like codes for like stairs, there are the same thing applies for ramps and wheelchair ramps. So you don't want to just build like a really steep ramp. It needs to have like a certain slope and like how like far it extends from the steps and so on. I'll go into this in a separate video, but that's something worth researching. And yeah, those are the big 3. So I would say the reason for that is basically because a lot of people have stairs, right? So even on a single story home, you may have to go into like a step or 2 to get into your home. Now, if you have multi-level story homes, like in 2-story or apartment buildings and so on, then hopefully you have an elevator. If not, and you only have stairs, then hopefully staying on the 1st floor is an option for you. But I get that some people live in apartments and you may live on, let's say, I don't know, the 5th floor, then you're going to really have to troubleshoot that. And can they navigate those stairs if you don't have an elevator? Because if they can't, then I would say that's a really unsafe discharge plan, because the patient will be essentially stuck there. Like, yeah, if they get in there, but what happens if there's a fire or like an earthquake or whatever it may be these days, right? Like, or they need to go to a doctor's appointment, right? So how will they get in and out? So think about that and plan accordingly. You may need to widen some doorways, not knock down walls, but, you know, like maybe take a door down. I'll show on the screen the standard like wheelchair width, but for some people, if they may have a larger body size, then they may have a bigger wheelchair, and that may or may not fit through the doorway. So that's another thing to think about. But I would say the number 1 biggest barrier to people going home after the hospital is stairs. and how they're going to navigate that. The third one is fall hazards, right? So I kind of talked about this in the very beginning, like removing all the clutter, but here are some things you may or may not think about. Throw rugs, they are notorious for tripping people, right? So you can roll them up and pack them up or get them out of the places that the patient will go to. And also cords, like charger cords, like iPhone charger cords. I don't know about you, but I have like a million cords everywhere. Like for me, I'm probably an exception because I have like a studio, so all my lights and stuff have cords. But other things are toys, right? If they're kids, not just kids' toys, but dog toys, right? Like if you have animals like cats or dogs, or even cats and dogs themselves can be fall hazards. I have like a dachshund kind of mix, and she loves to just be right under my feet all the time. When we go down the stairs, she likes to dart down first. And if you're the owner of these pets, then you know how they are. But if the patient is staying temporarily at another place, like in like their parents' house or in-laws' house or a neighbor's house, then they may not be familiar with these pets and their kind of behaviors. And that can be another fall hazard. Another thing is slip hazards, right? So like in the shower, wet surfaces are just very slippery. The other day, my son like slipped and like, fell on his bottom and it really hurt. He cried. And I was like trying to like test it out. I was like, is it really that slippery here? And like, I almost fell. Good thing I was like bracing the counter just like, cause I knew it was kind of slippery, but it doesn't really matter. A slippery surface is a slippery surface. So like in showers, you may want to have like, I know I said remove like throw rugs, but mats in like shower stalls and bathtubs are really, really good for preventing falls. And if you don't have any of those and you're on a tight budget, even putting down like a towel and like to step on or like stand on while you shower and on the outside of it when you get out can be very, very helpful. So it actually covers a lot of my bathroom tips, by the way, but I'll go into that. Maybe installing grab bars. If you can have it installed into a stud, I would not advise using like those suction cup ones. But if you had, like you live in an apartment, you can like drill into the walls and you talk to the manager and they say nothing, absolutely. By the way, you do have rights. So like the ADA and you have a disability, you do have rights. And I'm not really sure what it covers at the moment on the top of my head, but you may want to look into that if you are meeting some resistance. For the bathroom, they may or may not be able to stand for the entire time, right? So it may be too long for them. They may be in pain. They may not have the endurance or the balance or the energy or all of the above. So they may need a chair to sit down on or a longer bench to sit on. So I would talk to the treatment team, especially if occupational therapy is on board with the treatment of this patient, to see what they recommend. Also, simple things like installing like a shower wand. So if you have a shower that's stuck to the wall and you can't really take it down and use like a wand, you may want to consider like going to Home Depot or shopping on Amazon. They're really, really cheap these days. I'll link it in my description. This will be an affiliate link, but it's just a good thing to have anyways. Like for me, like to reach in certain areas, like just having one stationary thing that's really high up isn't as functional as being able to reach in hard to reach areas. So, but I know having like an overhead rain shower is pretty cool though. I wish I had one of those. That leads me to lighting. So that's my fifth point. Having good lighting is very important. We probably take this for granted. I wear glasses and I really notice the differences between like me and my son and I and how his vision is like, he has like really, really good vision. He can read like super far away, super up close, no problem detecting things at night. Not the case for me. I'm like, I need to like fumble for my glasses or turn on the light. So having night light is good because a lot of elderly people or people with urinary issues or just even me, like if I drink a lot of water at night, I actually pee a lot at night. So having lighting is important. That can be a night light, like in the bathroom, but you also want to think about the hallways, like getting from the bed to the toilet and back. Is there going to be appropriate lighting for the entire way? And if not, how can you problem solve that? So you can install like some lighting. Nowadays, they're like really cheap. They even have like rechargeable ones and they're like LED. So they like last like a million years. You can like put them on the hallway. If not, you can just have like a really simple flashlight. I know everyone has like an iPhone or a smartphone that has a built-in flashlight, but realistically getting that and fumbling for it and turning it on isn't as easy as having like a dedicated light that is meant to do one thing. It's just like one switch. You always know where that switch is. It doesn't require like, because you're like gonna be really tired and sleepy. You're not gonna be like looking through your phone, you know. And even though they make it easy these days, it's like having. I would rather just use an like light. Like for my kid, he actually has like a cute little bunny light that you can like recharge, and you plug it in to recharge like a USB cord, and then it has like a button, and you turn on. And it's like really soft lighting, so it's not like super bright like my studio lighting. And it's like really soft and like not like sun blinding light, and you can carry it with you. And like if not, you could probably you could probably rig it so that there are ways you could put it in your pocket, whatever. So that having some type of lighting basically helps to prevent falls. That basically, I didn't talk about this, but the main goal of this is to prevent falls and injury. Like it's not so you can see yourself peeing at night or anything like that. Okay, the last point, which kind of piggybacks on the last one of safety, is just overall safety and calling for help. So will the patient have a way to call for help? So I know everyone these days has a smartphone, but how many of you have like the smartphone with you like right now? How many of you know where it is? Like if you were to have like a medical emergency, would you be able to get to your smartphone? Hopefully you can, but sometimes not, right? So the specific dedicated devices exist. I know they have like smartwatches these days, but I'm not personally a fan of especially the Apple one because, oh my gosh, the battery does not last long enough. Like they advertise it like you use it for like during the day, and then at night you're doing like the sleep tracking. Like the battery does not last that long, like realistic function, like real life, real world functioning. Like, and someone who has like the disability or an injury, a mental health condition, whatever, or all the above, they're not going to be able to charge that device every day. So I would not depend on a device like that for like fall detection or like calling for an emergency, because God forbid you had an emergency, the battery is dead. So you would probably want a dedicated device. So what I'm talking about are devices kind of like you've seen on the commercials, like fall alert, like life alert kind of devices. And if I know that they have a subscription fee and that may be a barrier to a lot of people, they run for like $30, $40, $50. So I understand if that may be a barrier to getting a device like that. They have devices that are kind of non-subscription based, and they basically have the same kind of like fall detection systems. Like they have the same kind of detectors and hardware in it. It's just that when that happens, it kind of like calls like a specific like phone number or something, or it can call 911 and it works off of the landline. I think some of them may be Bluetooth. I haven't done the latest research on them, but I know they exist. And those run for like, I don't know, like 100 or something. And that's just a one-time cost. The third thing you can do is, because you're going to be a caregiver, you're probably going to be watching this person, right? So having just old school tech. So things like baby alarms, or even like a bell for them to call for help, like ding, 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 ding. Like those are great. Or how many of you have like those cordless phones, right? I have one right here, actually. Like I don't have this actually hooked up to the landline because we all have cell phones these days, but I actually still use this device. I have basically an UMA. So basically it's VoIP, VoIP. Is connected via internet to function as a phone, and I pay like a very low subscription cost. I mainly use it for sending faxes. But having just one of these, if you remember using these, they have a pager function. So, or an intercom, I think there's what they're called, intercom, and you can page. So having one of these on you all the time, you can page the other phone, because like they have like a dedicated base, and then the other one you can carry around. And these batteries last like a week or more. Like they last a really long time. So, and these actually can also hook up to Bluetooth, by the way. So that's also another pro tip. You can link up like your smartphone to this, so that as long as the base, the main phone base is within range, you can use it as a phone. And that's really cool because, like I said in my example earlier, how many of you are within reach of one of your main cell phone? But having one of these, you could have them placed like all around the house, and just another thing that you can use for safety. So that pretty much sums it up. What I think in anticipation for a patient going home, these are my top things that I would tell a family member or a friend. Of course, this isn't cover all of the bases. It's not a very comprehensive thing. And I know every patient has their own unique needs, and each environment is different, and so on and so on. So this is meant to be a general overview, but in review, I would say consider the entry and the exit, how people will get in and out, what their mobility type is, what are some fall hazards and how can you reduce those hazards, improving the lighting and visibility of getting from point A to point B. Also, the bathroom, I think, is in terms of rooms, because everyone needs to pee. How can they be safer in there? Whether that's installing things, removing things, or if they're just not safe enough to go to the bathroom, you may want to opt for something like a commode, like a portable commode, and putting that in like next to the bedside. And then last, calling for help, life alert systems, or just old school tech. How can the person yelling may work, but a lot of people are hard of hearing. Like if you yourself are a caregiver and you're hard of hearing, having them yell may or may not work. And if you're like downstairs, you have the TV on or something, you're listening to like a podcast, you may or may not hear the patient. So calling for help in case of an emergency, a fall and things like that, so that you guys can call 911 right away. So hope this helps. I will see you all in the next one.